Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do a bit of a book review because I just finished up a book and it is Kendare Blake's Three Dark Crowns, and I got it solely off of the cover. I didn't even really read the back. I was just like, okay. I love this matte black, although it does kind of scuff up really easily, but still I just love that. And then just the bold crown types, my eyes were so drawn to it. And I'm really happy I did. It took me a hot minute because I think I picked this up back in like August. I just got to reading it in December. And honestly, I wish I read it sooner because I got pretty into this. It was one that took me maybe a week and a half to get through. And honestly, I probably could have got through it sooner if I wasn't so busy over my winter break. But this was such a fun book. It is a YA fantasy, and the premise, if I will read the back a little bit for you. In every generation on the island of Fenburn, a set of triplets is born. 3 queens, all equal heirs to the crown, and each possessor of coveted magic. Marabella is an elemental, able to spark hungry flames or vicious storms at the snap of her fingers. Catherine is a poisoner, one who can ingest the deadliest poisons without so much of a stomachache. And Arsinoe, a naturalist, is said to have had the ability to bloom the reddest rose and control the fiercest of lions. It bounces mainly between the 3 different locations where they're all called queens, they're not princesses. So the 3 locations on this island where these queens are held, because there's no mother or father in the picture. So there's these different really powerful families that take care of the various queens while they're kind of learning to use their magic. There's this whole ceremony that happens at the end of the book that's kind of like the beginning of the end. It's like you go through the ceremony, you show off your powers to everyone, and then these queens have a year to kill each other off, and whoever's left standing gets to be queen. A very interesting premise. It was really easy to read. The writing style is really interesting because I feel like this author knows how to say a lot or kind of get to the point. She definitely does not over-explain things. There's not any like purple prose. Like, it didn't feel necessarily sparse. For a few things, I was like, ooh, I kind of wish she took more time to talk about that character's emotional state, kind of describe the setting a little bit. For the most part, for 90% of it, I didn't feel like it was sparse. And there were still points where the prose themselves were really beautiful. Kind of interesting writing style, and I found very accessible. Like I said, the chapters go between the different places of the queens, but it doesn't necessarily stick to the points of view of the queens. It's in third person, so we get the points of views of like the friend of the queen or the caretaker of the queen, and you see that there's mechanics going on beyond with what these 3 girls are going through behind the scenes that we also get a view into, which I kind of find that's a very creative way to tell a story like this. It's pretty dark. It is YA. I wouldn't say the violence is extreme, but there is kind of some graphic stuff. The first chapter especially, it's a good first chapter. Like, I was drawn in right away, and it is dark and it is pretty like graphic, not like violent, but just disturbing. And there's kind of stuff like that sprinkled throughout the book. Although it's not explicit, there is sex and kind of like intimate relationship stuff. It feels like an older YA book. I don't think it would be appropriate for like a 12-year-old to be reading something like this. It kind of falls into that nebulous new category of what is it called, new adult, where it's kind of between YA and adult fantasy. That's not what it's marketed as. It reads like that to me. As for the plot, it definitely like kept me going. There were some parts in the middle. I never felt that it dragged. There's just this looming event that's going to happen. I think it was called the quickening or the disembarking. And that's where like all the 3 queens are gonna get together. You know everything's gonna go down. So kind of having that looming in the near future, I kind of was reading the middle, and there was important information and character growth, but I was really excited to get to that thing that I know we're about to get to. But still, like I said, it never dragged. Arabella she's the naturalist, so she controls the elements. She's basically the avatar, and she is like super strong and everybody in the island kind of knows about her because the other two queens are considered really weak. And that's something where the more you spend time with them, it's like, yeah, they don't seem to be very good with their like abilities. Naturalists are supposed to have like these animal companions, and Arsinoe, who's supposed to be the naturalist, doesn't have a companion yet. Hi, my animal companion. And then Catherine, who's supposed to be a poisoner, ingests all these poisons, and they have like these meals with all these different types of poisons laced throughout them, and it's supposed to like do nothing to them. And Catherine just keeps having these like horrible puking sessions, and she's like falling apart from ingesting all these poisons that clearly her body cannot handle. So it's an interesting situation where there's one really strong queen and two definitely weak queens, but the strong queen, even though everyone knows that they're all supposed to kill each other, the strong queen remembers their childhood when the three of them were together and is super attached to them and doesn't want to kill them. And of course, that all changes by the end of the book. So I think we're gonna get a little spoilery right here, so I will leave a time code to skip ahead to if you don't want to hear any spoilers. So here we go. When I was reading that last chapter where Arsinoe's friend gets poisoned, but there's only a few pages left, and it ends with Arsinoe being like, you took one bite of this candy and you're bedridden and almost dead, and I ate 3 of them and I'm perfectly fine. I'm not a naturalist, I'm a poisoner. Oh my God, my mouth dropped. I was super excited by that. And also the chapter before that, that scene of Catherine coming up from that black abyss, and she's just standing there in the balcony, she's covered in like scabs and cuts and scars and blood and dirt, and she doesn't have fingernails anymore, is so nasty, but also such a good image. A great thing about the book too is that I felt a lot of sympathy for all 3 queens. I couldn't find myself rooting for one over the other by any means. I was pretty like drawn to all of them in different ways, but Catherine in the Poisoners, I think I have a bit of, I don't know, extreme fascination with. It kind of feels weaker, like, oh, you can ingest poisons, but can you control the ocean or an animal? But yet this world is set up where the poisoners have ruled, it sounds like their government, for the last like 100 years or something like that. And just the idea of the like poisoner society are so regal and like weird and dark, and the way they treat each other is very interesting to me. Now, just because Catherine survived that, I don't know if that necessarily means that she's a naturalist and that the 2 girls just got swapped. Basically, that is kind of left unclear. I kind of thought the thing with the priestesses, they kept cracking me up because they're weirdly set up as the religious heads of state. They're also guards, maybe quasi-warriors, because they kept being like, oh, the priestesses are standing guard outside of Mirabella's tent or something like that. But they were also really easily taken out. Like anytime Mirabella wanted to do anything, it was like nothing for her or her friends who are also not warriors to take out these priestesses. They just kind of seemed like a joke to me. Like, okay, I'm really scared of these priestesses here. They kind of seem like the stormtroopers of this world. I am pretty hooked onto this. I really want to read the second book. I'm into this world. There are still things about the world building especially that feel a little lackluster. Yeah, so would I recommend this book? Definitely. If you're into YA fantasy, then I think this is definitely something worth picking up for yourself. I hope you guys really liked that review. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more book reviews like this in the future, and subscribe so you can see any new videos that I upload. Leave comments down below if you've read this book, if you're super into this series, like if you stand for this series. Let me know your thoughts and opinions about that. Make sure to label it as spoilers if there are spoilers, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.